Please work recording. Okay. So this is like my fourth time doing this, and honestly, I have done this intro too many times. So I'm just gonna sum it up. Being better. What does that mean? A lot of people can summarize it and conceptualize it to really whatever they imagine. Being better could start with the simplest thing, like, I'm gonna take those off my wall. It could start with, I'm not gonna eat as much junk food. I'm gonna do an extra set. So, I'm gonna do more. I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna try to get away from this. I need to get out of this. And you can really summarize it to pretty much anything, right? So, like, in my mind, I feel like people get stuck in being better. I feel like there are so many ways to get better, but there's a lot of steps in it, I feel. And there's a lot of responsibility and accountability, really, to stick to being better. You can say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to say this anymore. And then you kind of slip out of it. So what's really being better, you know? I feel like, obviously what I've kind of just said is there's a multitude of things. But I feel like there's really 4 big cores to it. So I feel it's really, in my mind, being better really starts with I've done this intro too many times. I forget. This is my high school philosophy project. And that is what I'm basing this video on. Because I'm really proud of it. Because I did really good on it. And who knows, this might even be like this is the 3rd take technically, but this might be the 4th take in the coming, never mind, irrelevant. Anyways, I feel like there are 4 main cores to being better, right? So just honestly, in my mind, there's any way to go about being better, but in my mind it starts with an acceptance, right? So regarding the things I said, the wants to try to do more, stop doing this, do less of this, and then like a goal, like an acceptance of something that maybe you're not cut out for this. Maybe you need to stop this. Maybe you need to cut down on this. Maybe you need to do more of this. An acceptance, a reality check, really, of a whole broad something, right? And I feel like people really get stuck on the acceptance part. Like, people could say, I got anger issues, right? But do you accept that you have anger issues, or do you just know? Because knowing and acceptance are 2 different things, And which I feel ties really heavily into this next part is my second core is self-reflection. So I feel like in order to have a self-reflection, you must have an acceptance. The self-reflection part is more so of the acceptance, kind of really tuning it in and really fully fleshing it out, And and then from that point on, it's a self-reflection of kind of what's next. You've accepted this, but where do you go from this? How do you move on from an ex? How do you move on from trying to do better with eating fast food? How do you do better with trying to do an extra set or more sets? Which I feel like ties into this next part, obviously. They all tie into each other. But effort. I feel like people really get stuck at those first 2 parts. An acceptance and then a self-reflection. Anyone could say, like I said, got anger issues. But do you accept it? And then you could have self-reflection of, oh, I got anger issues. I'm aware of that. That's it. I feel like people get stuck there. They really have a self-reflection and realize it. Yet, that's it. That's all their betterment is. But that's half of the equation. That's half the effort. which is, yeah, the next part is effort. You need to put in the effort to do better. To be better, you gotta do better. And all that, and all the two processes before, you're doing better. But you need to be better, and that requires effort. And a lot of people, well, people are like, that's where I feel like people's effort in this really gets tied in, because it's like, it could be like, oh, I'm just not gonna get mad at this person. I'm just gonna not talk to my ex as much. I'm just gonna start trying to do another set. It's like, just do it, It's the whole part. Which I feel like comes to this next part, is a resolve. So going through the steps, you've done an acceptance, a self-reflection, and you put in the effort. But now you need a resolve. You really need to flesh out what it is you're trying to be better at. You are trying to be better at leaving your ex. Obviously, leaving your ex. You're trying to do better at fast food. Try to eat less fast food. Do more sets. Do more sets. Have been done more sets. You need to have a resolution of some sorts to this, or else everything you've worked towards is kind of nothing, It's almost like the saying, what do you have to show? Obviously that applies to different things, and people can't always show how they think better. But I think, in some sense, understanding that there needs to be something to show for being better. And that can come in any shape or form. But it must stronghold. It must be strong enough to really have the resolve of being better. To which my next part is, this can really, all those cores can really be interpreted differently. You don't have to start with an acceptance. Maybe it's reverse. You could start with a resolve, kind of have a goal in mind. I'm gonna do this. And then maybe you need to put in the effort to that, to kind of really work towards that and kind of, yeah, that's my resolve. But then maybe you need to have a self-reflection. Maybe that resolve wasn't really my thing. That resolve wasn't really my betterment. And then you really kind of have an acceptance that, oh, that wasn't my being better. So how do I be better? But in a sense, in that effort, you were better. Because it doesn't always have to have a goal. Being better, while I did say you want to have something to show, there's a process to being better. It doesn't always work on your first try. Sometimes, to truly get to your destination, you really need to stop and look around for the best way to get there. And sometimes you have to start strong, but then you have to end easy into knowing that that wasn't the right way, but you tried. And that is what's important. And that's what I feel some people do, is they get there and they realize that wasn't it, but then they fall and they plummet. But being better, you need to have a strong resolve to really keep going. Okay, I'm gonna go into manufacturing. Manufacturing wasn't it for me. What do I do with my life? Maybe it was just that job. Maybe it was just, you're not cut out for that. You really have to think about the whole process of it, and it doesn't even have to be interpreted backwards. You could do it in, oh, I need to have a self-reflection about, I don't need to be with this person. I need to accept, I can't be with this person. I need to put in a resolve and really put my way out there, and I'm not going to be with this person. I'm going to go do this and that. And then you put in the effort to do that. It's all interpretation on being better. But In my mind, it starts in the first way I mentioned: acceptance, self reflection, effort, resolve. And again, all interpreted differently. Um, I'm honestly reading my cards as I go because I want to talk about this, but like with the script of this, but also with the script of how I go. But, I can't talk about that. And that's the thing too. What is like I think I talked about this earlier. I've done too many recordings earlier. I don't know, but how do I state this? It really isn't a simple task being better. Given pen and paper, like what I just said, acceptance, self reflection, effort, resolve, all that sounds kind of easy, especially if you know how to work through it. But truly doing it is the harder thing. And I feel like people really, like, they make it seem so simple. But there's staircases to it, you know? And it's not, maybe you're a more complex person and you don't have 4 cores that you go through. You really have, maybe you're easier and simpler. You have 3. Maybe you don't need a 4th. But maybe you're a more complex person who needs 10. Maybe you need to go through a whole roundabout system to figure out, hey, I was wrong. I know how to be better now. You know? And it's people, I feel like this is where I'm gonna really kind of indulge into my. This is a philosophy project, so obviously I talk about philosophy in this, but my philosophy was being better. But truly, I think people's betterment comes from their philosophies and their views. And I think not enough people are really philosophical in the sense of knowing and being aware of kind of a way of life that you live. I feel like some people just live life, but sometimes you really gotta think about how you want to live life. Given most teenagers could have like an impulse to go out and party and drink and smoke and, you know, hang out with these people who might not be so good, but just do whatever, just live life. But some people do it so carelessly. I feel like you get lost in the whole broadness of life that you kind of forget how and what to do. And I feel like a main thing of that too is people's ability to really advance themselves. I'm someone who's kind of always aware of if I'm advancing or not, or more so less speaking of like I want to constantly be advancing. So I'm constantly making an effort to be better. And that's something I've always stuck with, and that's one of my philosophies is I feel really sticking to that being better has truly made my life 100 times better. Because in every situation, I can apply it to. I'm gonna constantly, I have a shitty day at work. I'm gonna do my best because I'm gonna get that paycheck. And I'm gonna perform for those and set an example and lead people. I'm gonna be better. I can be better at anything. And like, that's where I feel like it's hard for me to explain this because I'm someone who's always lived my life trying to be better. But that's what I meant. It's kind of the reverse of my course. Is that sometimes I needed to just stop and really look around for the best way to go instead of the way I thought I needed to go. And I feel like people don't do that enough. Like, it's a big world we live in. There's a lot in it. And you can get really easily distracted. And something that's simple like me trying to just be better, I can get lost in just trying to do that. Because you never know what's going to throw at you, but it's always important to keep that in mind, to keep advancing. Because once you don't, that's when you grow old and stale and stubborn and closed minded. And like 90% of people never be the 90%, be the 10%. Because that's cooler. You know what I'm saying? But hold on, let me read this real quick. Give me 5 seconds. Ooh, let me just read this bar for bar because I remember this. Yeah, this leads to my other philosophy I believe heavily in is to just live happily. Sounds super simple. Interpretation is what makes the simple things so complicated to people. People will argue with my simple philosophies and say, well, shit happens. I understand that. And some of us get stuck paying a $500 car payment until we're 21. Some of us are born into poverty and have to work from the moment we can to get out of that poverty. Some of us have mental obstacles that make us feel like we're forever stuck fixing them. What the fuck? I can't read. These issues may make it hard to live life the way we want, but while I have learned it is difficult to live life the way we want to, it's important to hold hope for those philosophies and values, because keeping hope for those values and trying to make them our reality is what defines us as individuals. While we might not be able to control events or misfortunes in our lives, what we can control is how we let those misfortunes affect us. To summarize what I said, I am someone who will forever strive to be better so that I can live happily and I let all the misfortunes affect my person. It took me a while to realize how I let them affect me, and oh my god, yapping, Jesus Christ. It helped me realize who I am, not who I am to others, not who I envision myself to be, but who I truly am at my deepest core. Thank you. And honestly, I spit, dude. It truly is like I truly did. I do believe, actually, but I believed a lot heavier back then that philosophies truly define our individuals. I mean, shit. I know a girl who would flip an entire town upside down if it meant her dog got hurt or her sisters got hurt. She is someone who holds family and animals so close to her, she would literally probably die for them. And while I can understand that, I couldn't do that because I value my life more, which I know selfish, but like, it's my life. I die, it's over. But I think truly, because like, I will never forget that person. She's so unique into her own self. I admire that. Because people nowadays, I feel, are like copy and paste of the people around them. You know, like, kind of what I said in my last video, like, people and their environments is like, we can get so shaped and formed by our environment that we really become, you know. And when you talk in that sense of like people, you really become the people you hang around. And that's just true. You really do. Like, I hang out with two other dudes pretty much like every other day. Every day, pretty much. And we are so similar to the sense where I don't know if they became like me or I became like them. But we just bonded and became one. Because we just hang out so much. And it's like, people get so, like, given we're all unique, but like, people get so stuck in like being like everyone else and trying to fit in. People don't realize we are our own people. We can decide who we want to be, where we want to go, you know? And people nowadays just honestly copy and paste, bro. I've met too many girls that none want to be the same as everyone else. Too many broccoli-headed boys, white boys, that all want to be in the same sport. They all play the same video games. They go to the same gas station. Like, dude, come on. Y'all all copy and paste. And y'all all got some white ass name like Dylan or fucking Steven. No shade. But like, you get what I'm saying. Now, being better. What I started this video with. Honestly, if anyone watching this is to take away anything from my 20 minutes of yapping, truly try to be the best version you want to be of yourself. If you only want to give, you know what, actually, no, it's bad advice. Truly try to be the best person that you want to be. You know, I mean, obviously, peace, love, and war. But like, also try to be better than just who you are. Everyone can accept themselves and say, I'm this and that, but are you going to get better from that? Or are you just going to accept that? Because we can truly change anything about us. And that's just true. I don't know. This video was kind of just like brought up in like 10 minutes. And I was like, you know what? I really like my philosophy project. Let us fucking explain that. Fuck it. So, yeah. I mean, I think I'm gonna probably do like a more fleshed out video, like in the far future, where like I have like a whole script or like talking points instead of just looking at my old project. But no, it's topics like these that I really want to talk about, because like I want to, while I talk about it like I know about it, a lot of things that I believe in and like have deep thoughts of, I don't exactly think the most of. And the times when I really do understand those concepts I think of is like when I talk about it. So, I don't know. I'm gonna try to do better. Also, if you haven't noticed, different haircut. Don't mind that, okay? That, it's not a good hair day. We're just gonna ignore that, okay? But, yeah, no, I don't know. I like doing this stuff. It's nice. Talking about stuff and whatnot. I just gotta come up with stuff to talk about, really. Because, like, fuck. It's not easy. It's not easy writing peak. It's not. But, I don't know. My birthday's in, like, a month. That's kind of nice. Did I get a... I don't know if I threw that away or not. Give me 1 second. I had a fortune cookie, and I don't know if I threw it away or not. I think that might be what this is wrapped up. Or this might just be the old one. Yeah, it's the old one. Be better. You can always be better and do more, but also realize if you push a narrative too hard for yourself and you don't feel it going anywhere, then truly, like I said, stop and truly think about if what you're doing, where you're going, is the right way or not. And that's about it. Okay, bye.